Okay. So we are taking a look at... Not that. We're taking a look at The Burning now. Is the next movie on the list. The Burning is a 1981 film starring Jason Alexander, Ratner from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Brian Matthews, and the chick from Bloodsport. And before I get into this movie, I feel obligated to mention this. This movie was written and produced by the Weinsteins. And, you know, if you know what went... I'm not going to mention it in here, but if you know what went on with Harvey Weinstein, and you watch this movie, you can tell it's written by Harvey Weinstein. There's a lot of guys pushing themselves on women, and a lot of, you know, stuff like that. You could tell it's a Weinstein movie. But I refuse to hold that against the movie. I feel the movie should be evaluated on its own merits. So I'm not going to hold the fact that how Weinstein's had a hand in this. I'm not going to let that hold it back. Because this is a fantastic film, and people need to watch this movie. It is fantastic. It's a shame it never got a sequel, because this movie it's great. So the story is that these kids at a camp play a prank on this caretaker named Cropsey, which accidentally starts a fire that burns the guy. 5 years later, he gets out of the burn unit, because it takes 5 years, I guess, I don't know. And he decides to get revenge. Well, he starts by killing a hooker. I don't know why. It felt like that was just added in post or something, because that makes no sense. And then he decides to go back to this camp, and he starts killing the people there. Now, so like I said, you have some, like, first-time performers. You got Jason Alexander wearing a toupee. I mean, come on. You're not going to tell me that's his real hair. I'm just saying. And then you have Holly Hunter, who has she's basically a cameo. She doesn't speak one word at all. She's just there. The woman, the lady from The Cheek, from Bloodsport, blonde, she's in this. Not really doing much. I want to know the poster for this. The original theatrical poster has Cropsey with he's like silhouetted, and he's got the garden shears, right? And in the water, you have what I think is supposed to be her character and the character of Todd in the water, like, making out. That never happens in this film. They do kiss, but they're never in the water. They look like they're naked. That never happens. It's shown that there's some kind of love interest thing between them. That never happens. So that, you know, there's just the thing of, like, movie posters in the 80s where they don't match the movie. Like, look at Nightmare on Elm Street 3 to Dream Warriors. Not once are they on a giant hand getting ready to fight, and none of those characters match. Except for maybe it could be Taryn, but I'm just saying. But yeah, so you have Jason Alexander with a toupee, and he's like the funniest thing in this film. He you know, he's a guy that can get you skin mags and condoms, and there's this scene where he's talking to this other guy named Glazer, and Glazer's like, man, I want a lubricated gun. I wanted lubricated rubbers. These aren't lubricated rubbers, man. You got me unlubricated rubbers. I'm just like, are you from New York? Guy wants lubricated rubbers, I guess. I don't know. How about ribbed for her pleasure? But anyway, like, I didn't have that back then. But, like, yeah, and he's, you know, you have Ratner from one of my favorite 80s flicks, Fast Time at Ridgemont High. Woo-wee! Man, I was in high school when I first watched that film. I rented it from the library. And they let me rent it. I was like, I was 17, at least. So maybe that's not bad, but I rented it and I put it in. Woo-wee! That scene, man. I mean, I was 17, I'd seen some shit. I've seen shit that'll turn you white. But I just like, that scene had me going. You know? But yeah, he's in this, and I kept looking at him like, I know him. Where do I know him from? So I had to look it up, and then I said, oh, it's Ratner, of course. Of course. And you have Fisher Stevens, who will always, to me, be Benjamin Javetti. Benjamin Javetti from the Short Circuit movies. I know he had a different last name in the first film, but I grew up with the second film over the first film, so to me, he's always Benjamin Javetti. He was also in this Mario Brothers, Spike, or Iggy. He was one of them. And there was, he was in an episode of Friends where he played the psychologist or whatever. And he's been in other things. He was in Lost. He's been in other things, you know. But, yeah, Benjamin Javetti. Sucks that he gets, well, not how he gets killed, because that's one of the best scenes of the movie. But, like, okay, so there's a point you show that there's specific characters you are following throughout this film. So you know that these are the characters that are going to get picked off one by one because they're the main characters. Well, it doesn't really happen because there's a scene where they get stranded on this little island or whatever, and they have to build a raft, which they do awfully quick, and then they have to go back to camp because someone, Cropsey, has taken all the canoes. And so they put a bunch of the kids on this raft, one of them being Fisher Stevens. I was like, wait, shouldn't he stay with the others? Because he's part of that kind of crew? Kind of like Friday the 13th Part 2, which came out the same year. Which there's a lot of parallels to it in this film, because they tell a campfire story, and it's filmed almost the exact same way. It's a campfire story in Friday the 13th Part 2. And there's a lot of parallels to Jason Voorhees in this, even though Tom Savini, who did the gore fix on this, and they're actually pretty good, because it's Tom Savini, he said he didn't want to work on Friday the 13th Part 2 because Jason's dead, he doesn't want to, but then this is basically the same thing, but written by, the Weinsteins. I'm just saying, like, Fisher Stevens is on this raft, and let's talk about the raft scene, because that's a legendary kill in its own. So they're on the raft, and they're like, paddling, whatever, and they find one of the canoes. But I do have a problem with this because, so this is a point of view slasher. You don't really see Cropsey until the end of the film. It's a point of view slasher, much like the first two Friday the 13th movies, which I think are both pretty good slashers. But you see the point of view. Before this, we see Cropsey's point of view stalking the group back on the island. And then in the very next scene, Cropsey pops up in this canoe and kills all these guys on this raft. Kills all of them. Just murders them. How are we seeing his point of view with the other people if he's in the canoe, hiding, waiting for the other people? And then you have the character of Albert, which is Ratner. And I think he's supposed to be a red herring. But why? Why are you trying to present him as a red herring when we know it's Cropsey? I mean, we wouldn't have followed him at the beginning of this film if he wasn't going to be the killer. And then we get, there's some characters. You see some tits, which is nice. There's one thing I want to say. So, I'm respectful towards women in any kind of way. I'm not like the Weinsteins, which I said I wouldn't bring up again. I'm just saying that, I like tastefully done sex scenes in movies. What I don't like is when, so obviously you had an actress who had a no nudity clause in her contract or something, and she couldn't do a sex scene. Hire a different actress. It's what bugs the hell out of me in Halloween 4 is that they hired this chick with the most gazungas, and she had no nudity clause, so they didn't show anything. Fire the bitch. Fire the chick. Get someone who'll do nudity. I'm just saying. But that was kind of tastefully done. You don't see it. You know, she's like this in Halloween 4. That's tastefully done. I don't mind that. Here, it's one of those sex scenes where we can hear it going on. The sound and everything. We can hear it. But we're following freaking socks, underwear, pants, and stuff leading up to it. By the time we get to them, they're done. Because insert premature ejaculation joke here. And she does it. Is that it? And that's it. We see his ass. Way to go. We can see his ass, but not. Hey, we can't give you a full sex scene here, so you'll see his ass. I'm just saying, if she can't be naked on camera, rewrite the scene. Instead of doing something as distasteful as leading us up to it and then stopping just as we get to it. That's a sex scene of the false pretenses because we're expecting something, we don't get anything. That's leading your audience. I'm just saying. But yes, and so this is where shit really starts to go down. He gets killed, and then Ratner, I'm gonna keep calling him that, is running. And so we get the final showdown, and we see this. People keep calling it a mine. A mine. It's the old camp. Why does no one ever get this? I've watched like 4 reviews, and in a couple of them they keep saying it's an old abandoned mine. It's the old camp that burned down. Am I the only one that caught that? It's the old camp that burned down. That's why he took him there. Because we find out that Todd, that's the twist, that Todd was one of the guys who started the fire. It's the old burnt out camp. That's what it is. It's not an old mine shaft. It looks nothing like a mine shaft. It's the old burnt out camp. And they take him there and they have the showdown. And yes, I'm going to address this. So, in 5 years, so they do this thing where they reveal, oh, it was Todd the entire time he was there. And they show the scene from the beginning, but they cut his name into it. You ready, Todd? And then the beginning of the film, though, it's like, you ready? And you don't hear the name. And then they think, oh, we got you because it's a different actor than the one who actually plays Todd. But is he really going to change how he looks that much? Is he really going to look like a totally different person in 5 years? This was 20 years ago. You know, say this happened in the 50s. Or say this happened in the 60s. In 1960, right? And now 20 years later, Cropsy's back for revenge. And then you got this older guy. That's another thing. They hired... Okay, so they do the thing... You know, you got adults playing the counselors. But then you got obvious 20-year-olds playing the... playing the campers. I found it very hard to distinguish who is supposed to be a counselor and who is a camper at first. It was very hard to figure out. It was very confusing. But you get the showdown, and like Albert is still alive somehow, because they show that he sort of gets killed when he stabs Cropsy, and then Cropsy gets set on fire. And this is probably the only death that I really didn't care for. The other ones were alright. But like, Cropsy is set on fire, and they show him he's just hanging there. And true, he could have died. They say, you know, he's so burnt, he didn't have nerve endings when you're so burnt like that, so he didn't feel it. But you're on fucking fire, and he's not moving. It just looks unrealistic to me. And then this has the same kind of negative the 13 Ghosts had. It just ends. We don't get any follow-up with the 2 remaining characters. There's no final girl in this. Well, technically the chick from Bloodsport is, but she's not at the final part of this. She's not part of the end. She's with the other students. I think Jason Alexander survives, actually, which is weird. But we get someone telling the campfire story, the exact same fucking story that Todd tells earlier in the movie. And in the end, he's like, "You're dead!" And it ends. And I'm just like, so who is this guy? Is it supposed to be Albert all these years, 5 years later? Or is it supposed to be someone else connected with Cropsey at the beginning? Who knows? And to me, this was setting up a sequel that never happened. There should have been a sequel, though. It could have been cool. I know the Cropsey, the Cropsey killer is something of legend or something like that, but I enjoyed this film. I'm going to get 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. Pushing all the Weinstein bullshit aside, it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. The characters were hilarious at some point. It's what you think of when you think of an 80s slasher, like this and Pieces. This is what you think of. And I'm finally getting some of the better ones out there, so that's good. So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on The Burning? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. We'll see you in the next one.